the built environment is so huge, it encompasses so much of our everyday life that in terms of kind of breaking down the topic of transformation of our built environment into to achieve a net zero carbon future, I decided to kind of look at it at 4 different levels and really focus on housing. And I decided to just present a number of different kind of interesting schemes or built environment schemes. The first is the invisible autonomous house that was a proposal by Professor Greg Keith. And it's essentially a terrace, a double terrace house that's reimagined for one planet, net zero carbon living. So you've got greenhouses, you've got spaces to grow your vegetables. And the idea being that, the built environment is really there to support us, and it's there to support people, it's supposed to support organizations. And going forward, it will be one of the kind of key things to support net zero carbon lifestyles. And Greg Keith's scheme is really interesting because it's kind of tongue-in-cheek in that it imagines what a zero carbon lifestyle might be, and you've got, for example, keeping animal husbandry, keeping pigs and goats in the back garden. You've got you recycle your coffee grounds into mushrooms. You've got the basements reimagined as a pool where you kind of put your kitchen scraps to feed tilapia fish, and that's where you get your fresh fish from. So it's kind of an interesting intersection of some of the topics today that we discussed today. But the serious point to it is that net zero carbon lifestyles are likely to be different to those that we currently lead, and the built environment will need to respond to that. I mean, even in the past year, we've seen how commuting has suddenly reduced, and how our homes have become offices, and in the future, our offices may become homes. And these are the sorts of changes that the built environment will need to respond to. One of the kind of interesting things about certainly about energy efficiency and some of the kind of key components of net zero in terms of meeting net zero in the built environment is a lot of the innovation has already happened. In fact, it happened 40 years ago as a response to the oil crisis. As this example shows, this is the conservation house, which was built in Canada in 1977. And it has all of the elements that you'd need to develop a net zero carbon house. It's built timber, it is super insulated, it's got solar hot water, it's got mechanical ventilation with heat recovery, all built 40 years ago. And it kind of goes to show that some of the key issues around the delivery of net zero in the built environment aren't technical. They're to do with issues of commercial viability and about economic and social constraints. And the passive house system developed by Bo Adamson and Professor Wolfgang Feist is further evidence of this. It was partly developed in with reference to the conservation house, and it as an approach, it was developed into a system. It uses about 1/10 of the heating energy of a equivalent modern house. And yeah, there's the real question of whether developers within the built environment for new homes of that sort of scale, there's a question of whether developers and house buyers are prepared to pay that 10 to 5% or that 5 to 10% extra for a house that uses 1/10 of the heating, alongside questions of whether the construction industry can redeploy away from quantity and focus on the quality that's required to deliver this sort of housing. And we have seen this. This is Goldsmith Street, which was built to the Passive House standard, but it shows that in certain cases, local authorities are kind of leading the way in deploying these systems. However, the real issue within the built environment is decarbonising our existing building stock. We have some of the lowest housing replacement rates in Europe. So essentially, the housing that we've got now will be the one that will be the housing that will have to adapt to meet zero carbon standards. And we've got 29 million houses in the UK that are in need of retrofit that are damp and leaky. And one response to that is energy sprog, which was partly inspired by the Passive House system. And it is a Dutch refurbishment approach that uses prefabricated panels that are fixed to the existing building. And one of the things I like about this picture is that it inadvertently shows some of the issues around retrofit. As you can see, the social housing, which is part of the funded by that was has benefited from energy sprog, but the private housing, the right to buy tenants have missed out. And there's a whole questions of, well, were they offered the opportunity for this upgrade? Did they turn it down? Did they say, I like the look of my house as it is? Do they now have issues with moisture and damp now that all of their neighbours have got nice new insulated houses? And I think it goes to show that that there are a whole set of social and cultural issues around retrofit in the UK. I suppose one of the kind of big changes in the past 5 years is consideration of embodied energy. And this is the energy and carbon that goes into the construction of a building, or the materials that are used to construct a building. And it's sometimes referred to as upfront carbon. My current research is looking at large-scale urban developments, the redevelopment of citywide blocks with the architecture practice, AHMM. And one of the interesting things to come out of that is that a major development in London has a massive resource footprint. A footprint that stretches across Europe. With materials sourced from certainly all over Europe and sometimes all over the world. And kind of one of the responses to that is to recycle. And this, as shown in this project here, which is Resource Rose in Copenhagen, where chunks of old building have been cut up and literally used to construct the facade. Another approach is to sequester the material itself, or sequester the carbon within the material itself, primarily through the use of timber. However, there are kind of issues there to do with fire and insurance and other not necessarily technical constraints. They're more to do with societal constraints. And one of the interesting things is that when you start recognizing embodied energy, it starts to raise questions about efficient use of materials and efficient use of energy, and where best to deploy the energy that's used in construction. And as I said, it raises questions about efficiency and efficient use of material. And one of the things that we've seen, one of the big issues within the built environment is the housing crisis. The 2011 census identified that in England and Wales, we have a population of about, or at the time was about 5 million people for those two countries. And we have 66 million bedrooms. So we're in a position where everybody could have a bedroom with nobody having to share. And when cohabitation's taken into account, we have a surplus of about 20 million bedrooms. So the reality is that we're building homes in the southeast that are often remaining empty. And in the northwest, we're allowing homes to fall into dereliction. There is a real question about whether that is compatible with a net zero carbon society and the transformation that's required to kind of address this situation. And one response to that is this project by Semble Architect, and they actually took the terrace, which was shown in the derelict terrace that was shown in the previous slide, and reimagined them as workshops and winter gardens. And one of the things I like about this scheme is that it's conceptually, visually, and also to a certain degree conceptually echoes Greg Keefe's autonomous house. But however, it's realised at a community level, and this perhaps illustrates some of the some of the changes that are required as a route to net zero carbon transformation in the built environment.